It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name's Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought I was tired last week, but no. This week I'm tired.
Hope everybody is out there is doing okay. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy? And happy June, by the way.
Happy June. My birth month.
Yay.
Yay. I wish I could say I had something, but
You promised us last week, Liz. Come on now.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I did watch stuff, but it's stuff that we've already talked about. And like this weekend, I did a Superman marathon. Not because I wanted to, but because HBO did it.
Wow.
Well, it was
Dang.
they started with the first Christopher Reeve one, and it was like, oh, I haven't seen this in a while, and then they followed up with 2, and then 3. Was there a 4? Was
There was
Richard
a 4.
Pryor 4?
Yes.
No, Richard Pryor was 3.
Was 3, and then they did 4, and then they did the one with, was it Brandon Routh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, they went into Jason Bourne. It was like, what? There's
Stay
more
away from the
after
Snyder
this.
stuff. They stay away from the Snyder stuff.
That is true. But they did. They pretty much cut it off there. But it was nice watching the older ones again. Like, I forgot he had really set a standard there. So that was nice. And then I watched HBO, like every other show right now, they're playing the new Pee Wee Herman documentary. And I didn't catch the first half of it. Apparently, in the first half of it, he comes out and he says that that he was gay, but Hollywood wouldn't let him be gay. So he kind of cleaned his, because also this was during like Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse, that kind of stuff, where it really wasn't too socially accepted to be gay, especially if you're going to do a kid's show.
Right.
So, he had talked about, walking away from the love of his life to the other love of his life. And that's the part I thought, like I said, I missed the first half of it where he tells that story. I got into it because I saw Pee-wee's Playhouse on TV, So I forgot that Phil Hartman was his best friend and really kind of helped him get the show up off the ground. But later on, it became kind of like a bad blood situation between them two, because he never gave Phil the credit that he felt he deserved for helping, create the show and stuff. So he says it was never anything to end our friendship, but, there was definitely long parts there where we didn't speak to each other. And then they went through the whole Pee-wee mania right before Pee-wee's Big Top adventure. And then, of course, after that happened, he got busted in the movie theater. And then I don't understand what happened the second time. They didn't really talk about it very much, but he was accused of having child porn on his computer. but he says it wasn't a child porn thing, that it was like an older collection to where he didn't realize that it connected to child porn. Like I said, I'm not real for sure on that story. I didn't really even know about that one. I thought the big scandal with Pee Wee Herman was the movie theater incident, But then it talked about how after that one, he really thought that, it's over, my career is over. And he kind of had that little resurgence right after that too. So it was pretty nice. They said, like I said, I missed the first half of this, but they said that Pee Wee Herman actually talks through like 80% of this. So this is completely sorry. This is completely his story told in his words. So but I thought it was kind of interesting because when it came on, I was watching the new Baby 2. They had went to go watch Lilo and Stitch. So my mother-in-law and my aunt showed up. And at first it was like, especially when they start talking about, gay stuff and everything else, it's like, maybe I should turn this. But then I remembered all the things that his aunt had said to me, and it's like, no, maybe we should watch this. Remember, this is the one who says that girl classy for cussing. Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, it was pretty cool. It's on HBO. Like I said, HBO is playing it pretty much around the clock right now. I guess for Pride Month for sure. But yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. And it was weird because when he talked about the movie Big Top Adventure, they didn't even mention Tim Burton. So it was kind of like, or I should say, ha ha.
Wow.
But yeah. But I thought that was kind of weird because that was a pretty big name, Maybe it wasn't then, but what he became like after that and everything else, I would definitely go, oh yeah, I worked with him, So yeah, it's pretty neat little documentary. I said I think I forgot the name of it. It's like the Pee Wee Herman story or something.
In his own words. Pee Wee in his own words, I believe, is the name of it.
Yep, there you go. Yep.
Yeah, we'll get it in the show notes one way or another.
Yep. But yeah, like I said, it was pretty good. It was kind of sad seeing, well, it's not sad because, like I said, he was telling a story, but it was kind of rattling at first to see him after his death and everything else, They said that he had filmed all of this before he had died, and when he got sick, he was still working on this and didn't mention to anybody that he was even sick. So,
Yeah,
but
people
yeah,
do that.
yeah, I get it.
Good thing he
Yep.
did that.
Yeah, it's cool that it worked out that he got it done.
Mm-hmm. Or most of the way, where it
Right.
could be finished.
Right.
So yeah, I would definitely recommend it if you were a Pee Wee Herman fan. It's definitely interesting some of the things that he talked about, and I didn't know a lot of it, especially as a kid watching Pee Wee's Playhouse. I didn't know a lot of the behind the scenes or.
No, they didn't talk about that. I mean, the
No.
tabloids did some, but only for a little while.
Yep. And it's weird because I remember when I was a younger kid, I was flipping through the TV channels, and I could have sworn it was Pee Wee's Playhouse, but it wasn't Pee Wee's Playhouse. Like in one of it, Larry Fishburne, who plays, what is it, Captain Carl or something like that on there, the cowboy.
Cowboy
Yeah.
Carl
Yeah,
or something like that.
he had mirrors on his shoes, and he was looking up Miss Yvonne's dress. And it's like, I know this wasn't on a kid's show.
You wouldn't
So
think, would you?
I don't know if they did an adult version because it was the same actors. So
It
I
was it
don't
was
know.
it was originally adult.
Okay, maybe that's what I saw then, because it was
I,
kind of
I
like, wow.
yeah, because I don't remember if it was Showtime or HBO showed that like several years ago. Because I that's how I first knew anything about Pee Wee Herman was that. So when I heard they were doing a Saturday show, I'm like, it's gonna have to be toned down a little bit.
Right? How?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, before uh, Pee Wee's Big Adventure, when he
Yeah,
was still just sort of working the character around
yeah,
in various places. I mean, I saw him on like Letterman once from before that, and it was not a kid's thing.
yeah.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it was childlike, but he was making
Yeah.
grown-up jokes.
So
Yeah.
I think it was a parody of a kid's show.
Yeah.
So it was
Hmm.
more adult jokes and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But it's like, wow. I didn't know if that became before or after. But see, a show like that, it makes sense that Phil Hartman worked on it,
Sure.
you know? But then when you think of him in a kid's show, you're like, well, hey, what?
Right. Oh
So,
yeah. I mean, even Pee Wee's Big Adventure, that first movie, there's some really trippy shit going on in there.
hmm
I mean, it's that whole thing is him making fun of, I mean, to a certain extent, childhood.
yeah.
And I mean, I haven't seen it in years,
Well,
so
and
I
the
couldn't
whole
tell you. But
Pee Wee mania that was going on at that point, too,
oh God, yeah, I find it hard to believe that was all kids.
Yeah. Well, kind of like now, there's a lot of kid shows. I say that with air quotes that
Right,
adults watch.
right. That have a lot of subtle references that adults get. Sure.
hmm And I think they do that more commonly in kids shows because they know the parents and them are sitting there watching this
Right.
stuff with
Being
them,
forced to watch it.
Yeah, so let's throw them a bone.
Let's try to entertain them a little bit anyway.
Yeah.
Unlike
Maybe if they like it, they'll make the kids watch it.
right, which is why grown-ups always wanted to slit their wrists when they're watching Barney, is because I don't think they did that in Barney.
No, not at
No.
all. That was so not. That wasn't even kid friendly.
Right. It was just friggin' weird.
Yeah, I was so glad when that made the rounds out of the house. Brandon never really cared for stuff like that. He liked the stuff like Blue's Clues, something you actually had to think and work out and, solve something. He
Right.
liked that kind of stuff. Barney, I call it slam bam because it was just there wasn't really anything to
There's
learn,
no substance. Right.
Yeah. Barney wasn't teaching you how to overcome your fears. He was just teaching you how to like cope and live with it,
He was just talking about it, right?
Right. So he wasn't really helping the kids. So, yeah. You can direct all the angry hate mail for that one for at our Fake Webster account.
Ouch. Oh, well, one, ouch, and two,
Right.
it's not like we haven't bashed Barney on the show before. I mean, come on.
Right. Yeah. I guess his little comeback didn't come back too well. There's I don't know. I'd like to say our kids got smarter, but
That seems unlikely, doesn't it?
yeah, they
Pretty much.
haven't. Yeah.
Or certainly their parents haven't.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Which is what I've been griping about with this kids programming. It's a lot of dumbed down, stupid stuff, and all of our good programming that actually is teaching the kids things are getting cut and erased and taken off streaming. It's like, wow, you want dumb kids. But it's sad because a lot of good programming can't make it today because we live in the 5-minute society. TikTok has shortened their attention span to where anything longer than a couple of minutes and they're gone, So,
I mean, in all fairness, it's not just TikTok, but TikTok is a big part of
yeah.
it.
But even on YouTube, a lot of the shorts, are, yeah. So it's like, golly. But that's,
Hmm.
I mean, that's the normal.
I don't believe in the thing.
Yeah.
Normal, that is. I mean, I believe in
Right.
YouTube. Clearly it exists and all, but.
Abby normal.
Hmm.
I think it's sad. And then I heard that HBO, they stopped their contract. Well, they didn't stop, but the contract ran out with Sesame Street. And now Netflix has picked it up, which, hey, that's awesome. Good for Sesame Street. But I think people are kind of forgetting what made Sesame Street like iconic was it was free. Any kid from any background, any income level, poverty or rich could watch Sesame Street and you could all learn something from it. So it's kind of sad now that we see that it's being hidden behind a paywall. And now the kids who can't afford Netflix or don't have Netflix will no longer be exposed to Sesame Street. So
Oh,
I
let's be real. One, we've talked about this before, and two, let's be realistic. HBO had it behind a paywall too.
no, they still had it on TV and everything though. So you could
Oh,
still
did they?
watch it. You could still watch it on TV.
Hmm.
And you could watch it on HBO too, but Netflix, they don't have a TV channel. There's not a, I don't think they're doing the public broadcasting thing. So, which is, like I said, that's what HBO had did. So it is sad, but I'm glad it continues because I know if Sesame Street is anything like the Sesame Street I grew up with, they'll find a way and they'll make sure that more kids are able to watch this. But it's just kind of sad, when you realize that's pretty much the way the world has come down to now, especially as far as our TV go. There's not a lot of good on free TV anymore.
Hmm.
Would have been great if Tubi picked it up. They've
Would've.
actually they've picked up quite a few that HBO's axed. I think they picked up the all the Scooby, and there was something else they picked up, which I was kind of surprised about. But yeah, they've picked up some of a lot of this kid stuff that's been cut.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know Netflix will actually give them a budget like HBO did because I think when HBO first acquired it, I talked about it here on the podcast and it was like, holy shit, everything just got better. The storylines got better. You could tell the production values got better. It just didn't look cheap anymore. They had better IPs to spoof off of,
Mm.
HBO did wonders for Sesame Street. So it's kind of sad they couldn't continue that. But
Right.
they are
Well, I
not
mean,
liking kids right now.
all we can do is hope that Netflix has the same kind of sensibility toward it and
Yeah.
will treat it right and maybe make a deal with something like Tubi or Roku or one of the other free streaming
Yep.
services. Maybe they will. Maybe this is the start of that. I have no idea if it will be, but we can hope.
Yeah, I think they gave up the whole catalog and everything they acquired. So I don't know what HBO's doing. I to me it kind of seems like with weeding out like Cartoon Network and Boomerang and stuff, they're kind of getting away from the kids stuff and going back to being the adult channel that they were when they first started. That's kind of how I see this playing. I could be wrong, but with all the stuff they've cut, I'm not too wrong.
Well, and right, and who knows? Maybe they're figuring out that generalizing the way everybody's been trying to do for the last few years isn't paying off the way they wanted it to,
Mm-mm.
and so they're looking maybe to specialize a little more again,
Right.
and
Which is
somebody
what
else will
made
pick
them.
up some of the other stuff. Who
Well,
Yeah.
knows?
I've been reading some scuttlebutt about of Warner Brothers possibly trying to sell off the streaming services. Just
Huh.
get away from it.
Interesting.
That is.
I
Especially
don't
now
know.
that
I
cable's
don't know if
dying.
I don't know if I
Mhm.
don't know if I believe it, but that's just
Right. That's at least the rumor.
yeah.
Well, and I had also heard that Discovery's getting ready to leave. So they'll no longer have that one either.
Yeah, interesting.
hmm I think Discovery thought they were getting more. And then when they got over there and they found out, sad as it is to say, Discovery was offering more, it was kind of like, wait a minute, how fair is this? Yeah.
Well, they got their names on the banner for a little while, but
hmm
I think they probably thought they were paying for more than that.
And probably reached a newer audience that'll follow them wherever,
Could be. Right. That's the deal. Is that's the
Mhm.
kind of programming that people will follow.
But I think as far as kids programming, of course, without the obvious Nickelodeon and Disney, Paramount has really started up in their game as far as programming and stuff goes too.
Well, good.
Mhm.
But you talk about right there toward the end how Paul Rubens was wanting to make sure he did what he could to get this thing done.
Mhm.
Reminds me reading. It reminds me of an article I just read recently about the great Tony Todd. He really wanted to be in this latest Final Destination, but he was suffering from cancer. But they
Mm.
worked out a way for him to come on there, and he does make an appearance in the film, and apparently it was written as a way of saying goodbye.
Oh.
And I saw a clip of it, and it's like, oh my God, you could. He was very thin. You could tell he was ill.
Ugh.
But
Hmm.
I thought it was cool that they allowed him to do that,
Yeah,
and he
I
That
think
was
is
up
that's
pretty
to
cool.
doing it. Yeah.
for sure.
So
Well, they were saying something about when Kevin Conroy got real sick, he went in and did a bunch of voice work, and they've got like enough of it together to where they can do like a couple of games still with his voice, which I
Cool.
thought was pretty cool.
Yep.
so all right. Anything else?
No, that's all I got.
Okay, Mikey.
See, now that's the sort of nothing that I usually expect.
Exactly.
Half an hour of nothing. That's great.
It was
Love
just
it.
Superman.
Right, just a few Superman movies, no big deal.
Yeah.
Well, unlike Liz, I watched one movie because I'm slow and my attention span is weird, even by her standards. But I watched I watched the first of the Matt Helm movies several weeks back. I went ahead and watched the second one this week. It's called Murderer's Row.
Mhm.
It is also from 1966, and it obviously stars Dean Martin as the titular, as Matt Helm, the super spy. Other notables in the cast are Anne Margaret and Carl Malden. Carl Malden is the bad guy, which is fun. Seeing Carl Malden as the bad guy, he does it really well. But yeah, so he's the latest member of Big O who's trying to essentially take over the world. He has kidnapped a scientist who has invented essentially like a global laser weapon thing. They call it the helio beam. And of course, he's kidnapped the scientists and he's trying to torture the last few bits of information on how to build the thing out of him so that he can wipe Washington D.C. off the map. And fortunately, Donald Hamilton foresaw the movie You Only Live Twice and beat them to the punch by killing, and I put heavy air quotes on killing, Matt Helm at the beginning of the movie. And so he goes undercover, pretending to be a gangster on vacation in France to attempt to figure out what they're doing and find the scientist and either rescue him or kill him. That was the deal. And he picks up Anne Margaret along the way, who I will go ahead and spoil a little because we find out pretty quickly on that she's the scientist's daughter. And then a relatively fun quasi James Bond movie ensues. It's pretty good. I mean, this is the second one I've seen, and they're both pretty good. It's kind of the same pace as the Bond movies, but it's definitely a different dynamic. Dean Martin is, I won't say these movies are not really aiming for comedy, but they are definitely lighter in tone than Bond. Bond is a really dark character, and we don't really. I mean, Connery's Bond is really dark, and then the deal is we then get Roger Moore later on, and it's a differently flavored dark. Roger Moore his Bond was a lot more glib. You get more of that with Matt Helm, with Dean Martin doing this. It's closer to the Roger Moore Bond than it is to the Sean Connery Bond, but in a good way. There was the other interesting / funny and also not super surprising cameo appearance is by there's a couple of scenes in this nightclub, dance hall, discotheque, whatever you want to call it, and there's a live band playing in those scenes, and that live band is called Dino, Desi, and Billy.
Uh-huh.
If you're not familiar, the Dino in Dino, Desi, and Billy was Dean Paul Martin, who was Dean Martin's son. The Desi in Dino, Desi, and Billy is Desi Arnaz Jr. And they had another guy who was actually like a musician playing with them named Billy.
And the rest.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, it's kind of fun. I had the one little suck part, and I managed to make it work out. It was fine. But one of the things that Tubi does is sometimes they have to rotate out certain movies. I'm assuming it's a contractual thing with the distribution company that's doing it. So these movies just rotated off. I actually kind of rushed through to get it watched before they rotated off on June 1st. Usually what happens though is they'll come back in a couple of months, give it 2 or 3 months, and they'll almost certainly be back on Tubi. So they're not currently on Tubi right now, but I imagine they will be back soon. So I'm gonna have to wait a little bit before I watch the third and fourth ones. But that's all right. I don't want to jump right into them yet anyway. Trying to space this out and enjoy them. If I watch them all at once, I'll hate them, especially by the end of the last one.
You talk about Carl Malden playing a bad guy. I saw him in, I believe it's called Nevada Smith. It's a Western starring Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen, yeah.
And he was the bad guy there. He was responsible for killing Steve McQueen's parents.
Ah, that's not very nice.
So
I mean, if Murderers Row is any indication, that would be worth watching because Carl Malden plays a pretty good bad guy.
he's very good. I had never seen him as a bad guy until I saw that film, and it's been a while since I've watched it, but I remember that. Also has Brian Keith in it too.
Cool.
So, from what I remember, it was a pretty good film. Oh, and Suzanne Blanchett was in it too, in a bit part. I can't
Cool.
remember if anybody else was in it, but that's what
I'm
I
sure
remember
there
right
were
now.
people, but
Yeah. Well, just in terms of names. No.
right. Yeah. Well, this one had James Gregory back in it also, so he's the kind of the boss, kind of. He's the guy Matt Helm reports to.
Yeah, I
McDonald.
always liked him.
But yeah, he's a lot of fun.
Yeah, he
I
was
was,
M's character.
Hmm?
He was the M character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. This one also featured another interesting little side character. He had a name in the movie, and I don't, off the top of my head, remember what it was. He is referred to in the credits as Ironhead. He's played by an actor named Tom Reese, who is one of those guys that, I mean, I saw him and I'm like, man, he looks familiar, but I don't know what I would have seen him in. And then I look at his credits list and I'm like, man, I must have just randomly spotted him on because he did a crap ton of TV and he did a few movies, but he was like just this really big thug looking dude. And the deal is with in this movie, they basically shaved his head and put this chrome skull cap on him, which is, I mean, hence the name Ironhead. And they so I mean, he's sort of a Jaws type in that referring back to James Bond, not the fish. But because they also there's a fun scene with a large magnet that is very reminiscent of I believe it's The Spy Who Loved Me,
Yes.
which came again later. But so there's some cross referencing in these movies. I mean, I think the Bond movies rip these off in some ways too. I mean, there's certainly some back and forth going on. And honestly, like I said last time, a list of novels written by Donald Hamilton up with this character and these types of stories. So they got lots to pull from there. But I think there was some cross pollination involved.
Would a Matt Helms franchise work now? Would you have it modern day, or would you keep it back in the 60s, late 60s?
The my only concern with making it period
Mm-hmm.
would be that people would just inherently think that it's a ripoff of Austin Powers
Yeah.
when it's entirely not. If anything, Austin Powers ripped this off.
Yeah.
So I think making it modern is. There are some 60 sensibilities that you'd have to make shifts on. Like his quote unquote side gig is as a pinup photographer essentially. So unless you had to do something, I mean, it would be weird. You'd have to find a way to make that work. Or find another way to do that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, I mean, it would work just fine. I think it would be interesting to do them as a kind of a counterpoint to um, what I guess we'll call the Daniel Craig era / Jason Bourne era of James Bond, because I think doing that would be a mistake. I think you'd get an audience, but I think it would be a different sensibility. It would not be the way I would want to go, because I think the idea is to do the throwback to I don't want to say happier time, but definitely a lighter. Making it a lighter fare would be more interesting. that counterpoint would be a more interesting story to tell than to just rehash the same thing.
Right. Okay. Just curious.
I'm not sure that it would work though.
You're
Uh,
not?
they tried to do something like this with Man from U.N.C.L.E. several years ago, and I thought that might have been one that would click, but to me it did not. Didn't even come close. Although it had decent actors and such, it just wasn't strong enough to win the box office.
Right. Yeah, it would be interesting to. I would. Now you're making me want to go watch that because I would
Yeah,
be curious to see how,
I
because I
haven't.
haven't seen it, and I would be curious to see, because I mean, if you think about it, if on paper, what they did with the Wild Wild West should have had the same effect, but it really didn't. It was terrible.
I
It had
agree.
good actors, and sometimes they even acted well, but there was something just not right about that movie. And I would be curious to see how that played out with Man from U.N.C.L.E. I mean, if nothing else, you'd watch it just to see what not to do, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Well, it's funny because I haven't seen it either, but from what discussions I've seen online, those who've seen it, they said they really hoped there would have been a franchise, so they apparently liked it. So I don't know. So,
Mm.
but yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out. So
Yep, that's what I got.
okay, hey, how about you, Les?
I too took in a couple of movies,
Dun, dun, dun.
and I recommend both of them. The first one is a movie called Becky. This is a revenge movie. This is not a slasher movie, but
Oh man.
it has enough in it to make you kind of want a slasher movie. That the girl has her father uh, murdered, and she decides she's going to take the revenge route. It stars Lulu, uh, God, Lulu Wilson, and who is an up and comer by the looks of it. Because after that movie, I watched Wrath of Becky, which is a sequel to this, and the girl goes on another rampage, and she kills people very differently. So to me, it was a no-brainer to watch both of them. So if you do get a chance, I recommend the two Becky movies. If you get the chance, yeah, just have a break and sit down and enjoy. Pretty different stuff.
Oh,
No nudity,
Oh,
but uh, it does have some graphic violence in it, for sure. I've got a feeling my wife will love this, so we can only hope.
and where is this on?
I saw it on Paramount Plus,
Okay.
and I think both of them are available on Paramount. Because the second one I watched on Showtime or something, which is Paramount, or Paramount owns that. So I recommend them. They're just they're entertaining, and that to me was the big difference. So that's about it for me.
Interesting.
Yeah. May have to look into that. Well, for me, I really don't have anything this week, but I did want to bring something to everybody's attention. I think I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned on the podcast, but I know I've mentioned to you guys before. I've wondered why there wasn't a haunted house open like all year round. And maybe there is, and I'm just not aware of it. But it has come to my attention that there is one going to be opening up here in August in Las Vegas.
Of course.
Of course. And it is called Universal Horror Unleashed. And this will contain 4 different haunted houses. One specifically for Universal Monsters, so we'll all love that. Another one is entitled Scarecrow the Reaping, which, man, hopefully it will not be based on any of those movies we watched a couple years ago.
I was about to say, Liz, this is your fault.
The third one is based off Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then the fourth one is going to be based off the Blumhouse film The Exorcist Believer. So yeah,
pretty cool.
So yeah, haunted house all year round, and you know these are they'll change up after a couple of years, but it's cool. It'll be interesting to see how well this does.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the fact that it is in Vegas will help, but
yeah, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either.
no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying that. Yeah, but.
Well, I was the one being snarky about being in Vegas. I was backtracking a little with that one.
So. We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, be interesting to see how it turns out.
Right.
Lovely.
I mean, I'm not going to Vegas anytime soon, but.
Oh yeah, well, I'm not either, but still.
You may now.
You needed an excuse, right?
That's it.
All right. On that note, let's go ahead and take our first break, and then we'll be back with our discussion of the week. Welcome back. We are continuing Classic TV Month. Hopefully you enjoyed last week's episode. I think you'll have some fun with this one too, and it seems kind of appropriate since Mikey was talking about the 60s spy content earlier.
Oh, that was not intentional.
Yeah, we are going to be talking about the show Get Smart, created by Mel Brooks and Buck Henry, starring Don Adams as Maxwell Smart. So let's talk a little Get Smart, shall we?
Surely.
I've watched this show for years, and I didn't know until researching it that Mel Brooks wrote it. I should have known, but you know.
He was one of the creators. That's true.
I had to enlighten somebody else about that not too long ago too. weirdly.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess when I think of Mel Brooks, I think movies.
Yeah, he had a whole career before he did his first movie.
Hmm.
Yeah, there was a movie made kind of about him too. That what was it? That wonderful. Oh, geez, it's one with yeah, Peter O'Toole.
My favorite year.
That's it. Thank you.
I didn't realize that was based on Mel Brooks.
Yeah, because he was a writer for
Yeah,
Sid Caesar at the time, or before that.
that's a fun
Right.
movie.
You
It is
show
a
shows.
yeah.
That was a fun movie.
I don't think
I
I've
wouldn't
seen that.
mind
I need
seeing.
to check that out.
Yes. Yeah, because
Yeah,
Peter O'Toole's playing uh, movie star, but has issues with alcohol.
Script doesn't fall too far from the tree now, does it?
Mm.
yeah. It's got a nice ending to it too.
Yeah, yeah.
As far as the creators, Buck Henry was quite well known too. He passed away in 2020, but
What else
he's
did
known.
he do?
He wrote The Graduate.
Oh, okay.
He wrote Catch 22. He wrote What's Up, Doc, among other stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was very prolific in his uh, line.
He did some writing on early Saturday Night Live too,
Yeah.
Yes.
Made appearances on there
and
too.
some appearances. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was usually in the samurai section.
Yeah.
The Samurai
he was
Sketches. Yep.
the straight man in the samurai, in the John Belushi samurai things. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So yeah, not surprising that this show did well.
Yeah.
Had a good pedigree.
I agree.
Didn't hurt that Don Adams was also hilarious.
He had an interesting background too, because he was a Marine during the Second World War, and he was at Guadalcanal.
Wow.
Yikes.
And after he was discharged, he kind of went into uh, comedy, and he started out early, and he's best known for Get Smart and obviously the Inspector Gadget cartoons also.
Mm-hmm. And Tennessee Tuxedo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I forgot about Tennessee Tuxedo.
Easy
And
for you to say.
Yeah, I know.
Underdog. He's the voice of Underdog. He first first physical appearance was in Bill Dana show.
Mm-hmm. Bill Dana comes up again and on these things. That's fun.
Yeah. So that was kind of fun to hear. He was also good friends with Don Rickles, which is kind of amusing.
Well, who doesn't love Don Rickles? I mean, come on.
Oh, to listen to Rickles tell tales is just too funny.
Mm. Apparently, he based the character's voice, Max's voice. Given that Don Adams had a pretty distinctive voice already, he then kind of mimicked William Powell, famous from the Thin Man movies, among
Yeah.
others, to kind of get that cadence the way it worked. What essentially he became famous for eventually, and got heavily typecast for.
Would you believe?
Sorry about that, Chief.
Yeah, I recall that some of the catchphrases were really big.
Mm.
Missed it by that much.
Yeah. That was usually repeated time and time again.
Oh yeah, it was rare to get an episode that didn't have that line.
Well, even in our language, if we were talking at school, somebody would say that or something that would be repeated on Get Smart.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very successful series. It ran, what, 5 years?
Yeah.
And it was a takeoff of James Bond. And if you think about it, it was even a takeoff of a TV show that NBC had started the previous season, and that was Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah, there were a bunch of shows like that there for a while. They were very, I mean, not surprisingly, lots of people jumped on the James Bond fan thing. But yeah, you get Man from U.N.C.L.E., you get I Spy. I mean, even Mission Impossible to an extent.
The Saint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot
Avengers.
of them.
Avengers. There was a lot of that going on in the 60s. I mean, and even if it's not all James Bond, I mean, think about it. The Cold War was in full swing back then.
True.
So a lot of it's just straight up espionage and all of that. Because then you even get stuff a little bit later like Hogan's Heroes, which isn't based in, but is kind of the same concept.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of undercover Allied soldiers in a military prison, essentially,
Yep.
and with their hijinks. But yeah, so all that stuff was really popular then.
The idea of having the agent dumbered in ditch carp is kind of fun. And it projected even further, similar to Hogan's Heroes. But they more or less made the enemy, the Germans, the pratfall kings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a fun story about when Werner Klemperer was cast as Colonel. Shit, why am I blanking on this now? Klink. He was concerned because he was German born. I mean, I think he was not in Germany when all of that went down at the time, but because he was a little older than that. But he was very concerned about playing a Nazi or a Nazi officer until he was like, okay, I'll do this, but it needs to be like this guy needs to be over the top stupid and completely incompetent. It's not going to work otherwise.
Yeah.
It's the only reason he agreed to the role, because he was not surprisingly uncomfortable with playing a Nazi on TV and getting typecast again with typecasting. But
Now,
Let's save some of the Hogan's Heroes for when we do the Hogan Heroes. Okay.
oh shit, is that?
Oh,
That's like next week.
Oh, wow! I really should look ahead, huh? Sorry.
Now, interesting thing. Do you know what the names of Control and Chaos stood for?
Oh, I used to.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
I don't
They
remember.
stood
the
for
name, no.
nothing.
Okay.
Oh.
That's why I probably don't remember that.
That
They
explains it.
just, you know, Man from U.N.C.L.E. was United Network Command of Law and Enforcement, but Control and Chaos were just names.
Right. They were always all capped as if they stood for something. But
That's right.
yep. Well, and another fun piece of information that we never ever got was 99's name.
True.
They made a point of never giving her a name. They gave her names, but they were always pseudonyms. They were always the name she was going undercover as. I mean, even down to the point where when Max and 99 got married, when her name was called, when the preacher or whatever said her name, somebody sneezed or something, and you couldn't make it out.
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. I didn't realize that.
It's dedication to the idea, that's for sure.
Hmm. Like Wilson and the Spence.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing was that you never see his actual face.
Hmm.
The guy was in other movies. Their actor was in other movies. You see his face.
Well, and see, and I remember, I guess maybe it was the pilot episode or the first season or something. He used to show his face. We saw it, and then all of a sudden, like I said, I don't know if that was the pilot episode, and then they decided after that to have that running gag, or but
Maybe.
I remember seeing his face.
Well, they were
It's even
so. Oh, go ahead.
okay. I'm sorry for that, but I was about to say, even when they did like bows after they finished recording, he would come out there and he would have like a mini little fence on a like
Fans.
a
Yeah.
yeah.
Something to cover his face.
So he's still covering his face.
Hmm. And how
Even
many
then.
times was he doing? Were they doing something that he wasn't behind the fence, but had something like a newspaper, or a book, or something over his face?
Yep.
Yeah. But no,
Yeah.
this was just straight on face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe you. It's just funny that they went to so much length
Yeah.
to not do it later.
So what were we gonna say, Les? I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to expound on what you had talked about. He used that little fence even in panels.
Yep.
When he would
Mhm.
be like at Comic-Con or something, he would sit there and hold that little fence up in front of his face.
Yep.
Okay, we know about Max. We know about 99. Who is 86?
86 was Max.
Yeah.
Are you quizzing us on the show now? Holy cow.
Just a little bit. Uh,
Oh hell yeah! I watched the show a lot in reruns. I used to love this. I haven't seen it in a while, but
Yeah,
do
it's been a while since I watched.
do you remember Larrabee?
Yep.
That
Mhm.
was Don Adams' cousin, his real cousin, Robert. Carvolus.
Mm-hmm.
Liz, what part did Dick Gautier play?
Huh?
He played Jaime the Robot.
Ah.
And he was only in, about 6 episodes or something like that. They even were thinking of doing a spin-off for him as the robot.
Would have been interesting.
Yep,
That
I
would
think
have.
so.
The other fun thing about Dick Gautier was a lot of people had not heard of it. I think we've talked about it once. But I want to say it was Mel Brooks that had a hand in a TV series based on Robin Hood
Yeah.
called When Things Were Rotten,
Mm-hmm.
and Dick Gautier played Robin Hood in that.
Yep. Yeah, we've talked about that one before. I remember us doing that.
I've still not
Kind of.
tracked that down.
Yeah, I kind of wish that had happened, but oh well.
He was also Rodimus Prime in Transformers. And he also did voice work in G.I. Joe, Yogi Bear, The Smurfs, Pup Named Scooby-Doo, The Addams Family, Tom and Jerry, Cow and Chicken, and Captain Planet.
Yeah, he's a busy dude.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We also get Bernie Capel in a very much a departure from his ship's doctor on Love Boat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, guest stars were by the dozens. That was always interesting as to who they would have. Everyone
Yep.
from Mary Winters to Dana Winter.
Yeah, I mean, lots. I mean, it's basically a murderer's row of get to self-referential of
Yeah.
guest stars from just all over the place. I mean, even in just, I mean, there's Sig Haid made an appearance, Jonathan Harris, um, Leonard Nimoy,
Yeah.
Jason Wingreen. And if you're not familiar with Jason Wingreen, he was the guy for the science fiction reference. He was the guy who was the original voice of Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
So we got Star Wars and Star Trek and Lost in Space all in one package. How cool is this?
And Space 1999.
Yeah, Martin Landau
And Barbara
and
Bain
Barbara
also.
Bain. Mm-hmm. Vincent Price.
Pat Paulson,
Mm,
who once ran for president.
he did. Johnny Carson. Listed, honestly, just the list on the Wikipedia page is just insane.
I agree.
It's wild. Rickles is on here. Cesar Romero.
Robert Culp.
Buddy Hackett. I mean, and you can't pull a list like this of guest stars without it being a really popular show.
And you look at that list, and Ellen Corby is on there, who used to play Grandma on The Waltons. And I'm sorry to say that woman had looked old all the time. I saw her in an episode of Cheyenne yesterday, and that was in 50s, and they had her made up as Ma of the group, and she was just looked ancient. Her daughter was played by Sally Kellerman.
I'll
The
go with the
original Hot
typecasting,
Lips.
right?
Yeah.
That's some hardcore typecasting. I mean, it doesn't hurt that she was born in 1911, so by
True.
the 50s, she actually was noticeably older than Sally Kellerman. So yeah.
True.
Yep, and I guess we can't get too far into this without starting to talk about some gadgets,
Yeah, I was about to ask.
because
About
that
to
was a
ask.
big part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. My favorite was the shoe phone.
You know, between Get Smart and Star Trek, I mean, I think that's why we have cell phones the way we have them now.
Probably.
Because, I mean, Star Trek with the communicators on Star Trek and the shoe phone. I mean, honestly, phones everywhere. Anything you can think of in that in Get Smart, that there was a phone for it.
Hmm.
They had communication devices out the wazoo. I mean, even as far as basically 99 having one built into her fingernail at one point.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to be that tied to my phone.
Let's face it, almost all of us at this point are that tied to our phone, but you know.
Don't believe it? Start watching body cams. That is the first thing they ask when they start getting arrested. I need my phone. Okay.
Of course you do.
I always loved the cone of silence.
The cone of silence was the best. It was the dumbest joke ever, and it worked so well. And they did it so often, honestly.
Yep.
I mean, that one straight right from the beginning. It's in the pilot. And they just sort of went nuts with it after that.
I remember this. I don't remember which episode or anything, but the camera that would show up hidden like in a bowl of soup and take a conspicuous flash of whoever's eating the soup.
Yep. The bulletproof wall in Max's apartment, the invisible one that he walks into.
Miniature laser on a button on a sports jacket.
Uh-huh. And then there are the cars.
Oh, the cars.
There always had to be a car in this time frame. I don't know why. Cars were cool. I mean, and honestly, Max had cool cars. Who didn't want to drive around in a cute little red convertible?
Which was kind of a steal by Austin Powers. If you think about it, that's what he wanted, was that convertible, two-seat convertible.
Well, Bond had one too.
Yeah. Bond's was lethal, though.
Well, yeah.
Now, Bond also, or not Bond, Smart also had a second run. Do you folks remember the one in 95? The Get Smart.
I remember hearing about it. I probably watched the first episode, but I don't remember it sticking.
It lasted one season, but I don't think it was even a full season. No, it was 26 episodes.
Oh, now I see why I probably wasn't interested. Never did much find Andy Dick funny.
Yeah.
All I'll say is appropriately named.
Yeah.
Or
For sure.
Shame. I'm not much of an Andy Dick enjoyer of my own, so.
And of course, there's the 2008 film, which was a remake with Steve Carell.
Right.
Which I didn't hate as much as everybody else did.
I haven't seen it.
I didn't think it was terrible.
Hmm.
It wasn't fantastic either, but it wasn't terrible. I mean, it was at least as good as Rowan Atkinson's Johnny English movie. Liz wouldn't like it, though. It has Dwayne Johnson in it.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to say that it was silent.
Oh, no.
There are, 3 movies with Don Adams?
Well, I noticed that we skipped the nude bomb, which I guess is probably
That's one of them. Well, my understanding, I was thinking I read somewhere that they had made one and then didn't release it and split it into episodes of the show. So I'm not sure that one counted. Other than that, yeah, I think there were. I mean, if you count that one, I think there were 3 because yeah, there was the nude bomb in 1980, and then
Are you
the
saying nude?
nude, yes,
Nude, yes.
nude
Okay.
as in buck naked.
I was making sure.
Now that we've explained nude to everybody,
Right. He even spelt it out for him,
they did a TV movie in '89, Get Smart Again.
Yeah,
Did anybody see the nude bomb?
I did.
I believe I did see it at the time.
Okay.
I don't remember much of it. That was a long time ago, but
Probably best.
I do remember seeing it.
I have
And
to
I'm
look
sure
that one up.
I'm sure it was a bunch of callback to what were originally funny jokes. How well it went over, I couldn't tell you. It's been too long.
I'm almost
Yeah.
scared to Google that.
I don't blame you.
It's kind of similar to watching Ronan Martin's Laugh In Now. The jokes just don't hit because that time is past.
Right. They were, yeah. I'm sure it's also kind of like watching like the last few Three Stooges shorts that were ever made and the films that they made after that. It's just not quite what it used to be, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's not as much fun to watch 60-plus-year-old guys slapping each other around as it was to watch them when they were 30.
Well, never say never. Again.
If we want to talk about 65-year-old super spies, sure.
So, any other thoughts about Get Smart as we try to wrap this up?
I mean,
Check it out if you can.
If you can track it
Yeah.
down. I mean, it's around, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
It's entertaining.
I'm surprised this isn't like on MeTV or something, though, honestly. I think all the other ones on our list for this month have been, but this one, which I thought was kind of weird.
But yeah, you can buy it by the episode on Apple TV and Prime,
hmm
from what I can see here.
Yeah, the only place I could show it playing or, find it playing was an episode here or there on YouTube.
Yeah, I believe that. Yep.
Okay,
It
now
is.
this is interesting.
Okay.
Looking up Get Smart, the complete series, I open it up and it says, starring Steve Carell, Anne Hathaway, Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, that's not.
The
That was the
movie.
2008 reboot movie or remake.
Yeah, I understand that, but it says
Oops.
the complete series. So,
Hmm. That is weird.
Oops.
But who did Dwayne Johnson play? Was it a new character? Or did
yeah,
I
Okay.
believe so.
he played
He's like the new hyper competent guy,
Okay.
if I remember correctly. I mean, big shock, right?
Yeah.
I think you're right.
He also, not to, I mean, spoilers for a 2008 movie, Trader, if I
yeah,
remember correctly,
that is correct.
which you find out at the end, and then Max has to take him down.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
That's The Odd Couple.
Oh.
Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun.
That's right.
Is it Liz? Is that right?
It sounded familiar, yeah.
Okay. Ah.
Check it out if you can find it.
Yep.
It's good
Yep,
stuff.
it is.
Yep. Fun stuff.
Well worth
And
the
we
money.
love you, Liz.
hmm
And Oscar and Felix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that should have been one we talked about.
There's always
Always
next year.
next year.
Yeah,
Damn it.
always next year.
And on that note, let's go ahead and take a quick break and be back with geek news for you. And we're back. It's time for Geek News for You. In this segment, we bring a couple of news items to the table for discussion. This week, it's Liz and myself. And Liz, would you go first, please?
I have on the show before. I have talked about Gen B, which was a spinoff of The Boys that's done on Prime. Well, it really good show. I was really excited for the second season, but then Chase Perdomo was in a motorcycle accident and he died like right before they started filming season 2. So I honestly did not expect a season 2. He was one of the way the first season had led up to him and the other girl were going to be like the lead characters in the next season. So it was kind of like, I don't know how to do that. I really don't know how. So they released a trailer yesterday. There is going to be a season 2. And I was kind of happy with the way they've handled this because instead of just glossing over that, Chase is gone or Chance is gone, they've made that part of the story, which is kind of neat because the ending of season 1, him and like 3 other of the superheroes were kind of locked up and they were viewed as traitors. So it makes sense for him to disappear during a time, a transition like that where they were locked up and, so it looks like this season 2 will tap in on that. Um, they'll kind of make it to, he's still going to be part of the storyline, which I absolutely love. But they also said that this is going to kind of boast up the last season of The Boys. So I'm kind of happy about that. So if you weren't expecting a season 2, there is a season 2. It looks like it will be out in September, which makes sense because I think they said The Boys was coming out the first of the year. So, but yeah, should be pretty good. Like I said, I'm kind of glad they did it this way. I think it was a good honor in his memory,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of cool.
hmm
You don't see them try to do that on. I
No,
mean, they'll have a tribute, but it's usually just sort of a one-off.
yeah,
Kind
or
of
their
cool that
name
they
at the end of this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that they wrote it in.
hmm But it also sounds like Kripke did, of course, he went to the family and was like, hey, he had everything, like I said, they were getting ready to shoot season 2. So he had everything done as far as story and everything wrote out. So it was definitely a big scramble. Um, I think with changing everything up and the way he handled this, um, he did go to the family and the family was like, do it. So at least I'm happy to see this one.
Yep.
And everyone's like, oh, that must have been so hard. Like, yes, but it's nowhere near what his family and friends are going through right now. So hopefully he does it justice,
Right.
That is a big thing to carry.
And Hollywood writers are used to doing crap at the last minute anyway. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't want to say it's easy. I mean, it can be done. It's a doable thing.
yeah. Well, he
And good on
died
them for
in
trying.
March of 24. So there was a little bit of, whoa.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so a little bit more understandable of a break on this one.
A little bit, yeah.
Yep.
Jeez.
But it also, they have not given us a release date on The Boys. They just keep saying next year. So this kind of will also give us an ideal. I think the season finale is October, so we'll probably see The Boys like November, December, not January. So,
Your hope. That sounds like wishful thinking to me.
well, it was already done. The story was already done, and Jensen and them have said they have already filmed their parts and have wrapped on them. So it's. I guess now it's like in editing and that
Post,
kind
yeah.
of thing.
Post
Yeah.
production.
So
Yep. Which doesn't mean they won't stall it off a bit to tease a bit.
I
But
hope not, because we've been
hopefully not
waiting a
too
while.
much. Hopefully
Because
not too much.
I, not saying the guy shouldn't have died. Guy shouldn't have died. That was sad. But with the death in between there, they needed this show to kind of boost what they were doing in The Boys. So it not only did it delay this show, it delayed The Boys because they have to set up this last season over here. So it's kind of been a longer wait than anticipated. Kripke's usually pretty good at. I mean, he's used to writing serials and
Right. He's
weekly.
used to having deadlines to hit. Absolutely. Like I said, he's used to doing it at the last minute.
Yeah.
So,
So,
yeah. Yep.
but yeah, should be pretty good. I'm excited about this one. I think I did post the trailer in our Discord. So,
Ooh.
Alrighty, I guess it's my turn.
mhm.
Boy, when it rains, it pours for Kevin Costner.
Oh, jeez.
On Wednesday last week, United Costume Corporation filed a breach of contract lawsuit against his film series, Horizon. They're seeking approximately $350,000 for unpaid costume fees across Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, which there's supposed to be 4 films. Were y'all aware of this?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think we talked about it once.
Well, I knew we talked about it, but I didn't remember. I must have just glanced over the whole fact that it was going to be 4 films. But anyway, so this is the latest in all of the issues that have been hitting Mr. Costner in this film series. It started off with New Line Cinema filing a arbitration claim for alleged breaches to a co-financing agreement, and then followed up by a stunt performer suing the production company for sexual discrimination, harassment, and retaliation
No.
over an unscripted, quote, unscripted rape scene that was filmed without the presence of a contractually mandated intimacy coordinator, in which she allegedly wasn't properly notified.
Oh, man.
That doesn't sound good.
No,
Not
it does
at all.
So, Chapter 1 was made for $100 million, grossed $38 million.
Mhm. Then they
That's
tried
not a-
putting it on TV, and it still didn't have the views. And I tried. I like westerns and that kind of thing. I thought it would probably be pretty good because although he is a diva, he's a good actor. I tried so hard, but I could not get interested in that movie at all.
Sounds like you're not the only one.
Yeah.
hmm
Costner is believed to be looking for financiers to finish shooting the films. Under his deal with group investors, he deferred his fees, mortgaged his Santa Barbara waterfront property, and put up at least $38 million of his own money toward the venture.
But at least he made his money back, huh?
He's going to have a hard time finding investors for a bomb like that.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, his little diva attitude that he displayed before all this, too. If I was a big Hollywood bigwig, I would not want to work with him. For one, when's he going to have an attitude and just walk off my set? Am I going to have to rewrite this script that has him in it? I would keep my distance.
I think a lot of people would.
hmm
Well, yeah, not only this issue with Horizon, but how he handled things with Yellowstone too.
And just saying, Taylor Sheridan has done 1883, 1923. Then he did Yellowstone. Yellowstone's about to spin off into 2 other movies. So for Kevin Costner to go, "Oh, I was that show." Oh, no, baby. You was just a piece of the story that Taylor was telling. Just a piece. And you see how quickly he replaced him or how easily it was to replace him. So it's kind of like he did all of that for nothing. But then he tried to say that Taylor Sheridan stole parts of his movie for Yellowstone. What?
That's going to be hard to prove, dude.
Yeah, which is the whole reason we haven't seen any court cases out of that.
Mm-hmm.
If I was Taylor, I'd laugh. I would laugh in his face. Because I think the point of that is he's had this planned out, which is the reason he's been able to do 1883 and 1923 and keep going,
Mm-hmm.
It's because this story's already been wrote. He didn't need to see a movie that hadn't even been made yet to steal it from Kevin Costner. Right? How do you steal something you've never seen? Nobody knew what it was, until he left Yellowstone and made it. So I kind of see this as karma coming back around to him.
Sounds like
Should
it.
have stayed on Yellowstone, you know.
All right, should have taken that big salary and
Yeah,
run
sucked it
and
up
walked
just a
away.
little bit longer.
All right, polish your story a little better because clearly
hmm
something didn't work.
Well, not only that, after working with Taylor Sheridan for what, 6, 7 years, if he was having some problems with that, don't you think he could have went to him and went, "Hey, man, you know, can you look this over for me? Every TV series you're putting out right now is a major hit." He would definitely be the guy you'd want his opinion from, you know. But
You'd think, but there. I mean, I hate to break it to you, but there might be
somewhat.
ego involved here.
Oh, I'm sure, big time, you know. And you know, he was like, "Well, if he can do it, I know I can do it because I'm Kevin Costner." Well,
Yes.
you didn't do
I think
it.
Yeah, it's not like Kevin Costner's never had a flop before either. I mean, come on.
Right, Westworld.
Mm,
Or what was it?
mean,
Waterworld.
Waterworld.
Waterworld. Yeah. Where
But
he
he's
had
had, but
fins
he's
and
had,
quills.
yeah, but he's had some Academy Award winners too.
Oh,
He
big,
has.
yeah. Like I
Absolutely.
said, he's a good actor. I definitely won't say that he's not. He's a good actor. I just don't know if I was a producer if I could put up with the attitude to get that, you know.
Yeah, we're at the point now where he's burning bridges that he's never built before even.
hmm
So
Yep, that he's going to need in his older age.
he's gonna it's gonna yeah. He's making his own career harder for himself.
hmm
I guess we'll see how that plays out.
Like I said, don't look like it's playing out too good.
All right. Any special shout outs or mentions this week?
Nope, not me.
Nope.
Not here.
Okay. We'll just move on to our regular shout outs. First, we want to thank Pop Goes the Culture for allowing us to be part of a great little podcast network. We recommend that you check them out. There'll be a link in the show notes. We also want you to check out the fine men and women who are kind enough to spread the word of the fellowship on Twitter by retweeting our links. And they're better known as Potter and Family. Best way to check them out is do a search, #Potter and Family, all one word. Just scroll through and whatever catches your eye, click on that link, download that episode. We hope you have a great time listening to them. Want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to the podcast. If you want to check out some of their other music, there's a link in the show notes for them as well. And you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We value your feedback. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to the website, go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form you can fill out there. It was mentioned earlier, we do have a Discord that's free for everybody to join. We have an open invitation on our homepage. Discord is free to sign up, and the apps are free on the app stores. We post a lot of news items, stuff for discussion, stuff to laugh at, stuff to listen to. We'll do some activities on there, like a movie night or something like that. So if you want to come hang out with us, by all means do so. In social media, we're the Fellowship of the Geeks on Facebook. On Instagram, Twitter, and Bluesky, we're at Fellowship Geeks. If you'd like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at LN_Geek. Les may or may not be found at Fake Les Webster. And I can be found at Tom TC Geek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you'd be so kind enough as to rate and review our show, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We do appreciate the support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,